I've been interested in Skull and Bones since it was first announced via the trailers from years ago, all the way back to 2017. There have been some delays, development hell, and then finally 7 months ago we got the open beta, which I checked out, along with the free trials, and when the game officially launched, I did not purchase the game because at the time I did not think that it was worth $70. However, sometime during Season 2 when it was discounted, I felt like that was the right price for me to hop aboard Skull and Bones, and it had become a guilty pleasure of mine ever since, from Season 2 to Season 3. Now, the game has gotten a lot of criticism over the years, especially in recent months. A lot of it is justified, but I do feel like that some of it is not. I think that this is far from the worst game ever. It's definitely not perfect. It has issues, but the team at Ubisoft Singapore are working hard over the past several months to try and improve the game with quality of life updates, keeping the community informed via articles as well as videos and live streams to their credit. But I do think that Skull and Bones needs more in order to survive Season 4. Will Skull and Bones continue to receive content post-Season 4 and future seasons? Or will Ubisoft scuttle Skull and Bones down to the bottom of Davy's locker after the 4th season has concluded? I hope that that's not the case, and I have come up with a list of things I would like to see eventually added to Skull and Bones that I firmly believe would not only improve the game, but also potentially bring more pirates to the Indian Ocean in Skull and Bones. By the way, your ideas and thoughts regarding what you think Skull and Bones needs to continue receiving live service content and bring more players to the game, welcome below in the comment section. Now, we know about the PvP mode. Ubisoft Singapore is working on it, and hopefully whenever it launches, either this season or next season, it'll be well worth the wait, and it will be a very enjoyable experience, and maybe, just maybe, the PvP mode will bring more players to Skull and Bones. I did do a video about that a few weeks ago. One of the big requests that a lot of players have had regarding Skull and Bones is our very own large ships. NPCs have some large ships in the game, like some of the elite captains, as well as the privateers, like the frigate, for example. But at the moment, all we really have is small and medium-sized vessels. That's something I hope we eventually get in the game, either a frigate, a galleon, a man of war. Between the three, I would prefer a frigate because I think they just look really cool. They're fast, they're deadly, efficient. And we already technically have a design of the frigate that Ubisoft Singapore could repurpose and use for players. I've seen a few questions asked to the dev team in Singapore regarding large ships, why we don't have them yet. And they've said a few different reasons why they're having issues with the large ships. One of which is pretty apparent. Large ships cannot traverse the rivers in the game. I think the easiest solution is just make it to where they can't go up the rivers. We have smaller areas specifically for the dhow where small and medium-sized ships can't go. The same can be said for the large ships, whether it's a frigate, galleon, man of war, etc. These are meant to be open sea vessels on the ocean. They are not meant to go up rivers, so why try to make them go in the rivers? If we want to go traversing the rivers of the game, players can just switch to a medium or a small ship. That's an easy way to get around the river issue when it comes to large ships. One feature I would like for the large ships to have the ability to do, which could actually help when it comes to traversing the smaller areas like rivers or the dhow areas, or for hunting and stealth missions, is the ability to dock and use our dhows on the large ships instead of having to go to an outpost or one of the dens in the game, because there are times when you want to go hunting and it's such a pain in the neck to go get the dhow, or you have to do a stealth mission to go steal an enemy ship. You need the dhow for that, and it would be much easier if we could just simply have the dhow docked to our large ship and we're able to use the large ship to dock and undock the dhow. But I hope we eventually get large ships somewhere down the road in Skull and Bones. Another improvement I would like to see is a small customization improvement, but for sails, I'd like a fourth category for flags where you would separate the emblems between sail and flag, so you could have like blank white sails or black sails if you want, but you would still be able to customize the color and design of your flag aboard your ships. I think that's a small thing, but it would also add to further customization in the game. There's plenty of players I've noticed that just like having standard white sails in the game, but if you use white sails, then you automatically have to deal with white flags. And I'm sure a lot of those players would prefer having like a Black Jolly Roger pirate flag. But as of right now, we have no ability to customize the flags of our ship. It's basically whatever the emblem of the sail happens to be. Hopefully, eventually, Ubisoft will do something about this. I know it's not at the top of the list, but I think it would be awesome if we had the ability to also customize the flag emblem as well as the flag color for our ships. My next idea revolves around player hideouts that we can purchase and customize as well as upgrade. So the Hideouts twins, Lee, they have their own hideouts in the game, and there's plenty of other locations on the map where we could have, the option to purchase either a hideout here, somewhere in the African region of the map, or the Red Isles, or over here in the East Indies. Not every single outpost, but maybe like 2 or 3 of them would have a location in each region where you could pick out where you want your hideout to be. The requirement, obviously, you have to be a kingpin, and you have to pay a certain amount of silver in order to buy the hideout at the location of your choosing. I don't know what the range would be, 100,000 silver, 500,000 silver, 1 million silver. I know the lower that price, the better for most players. I agree with that. So we'd be able to buy our own hideout, similar to what the Hideouts twins have, as well as Lee's hideout. I don't know if Lopez has a hideout because I did not play the game during Season 1, but we'd have some different options when it comes to the interior. We'd have the ability to pick out some different furniture options, as well as customization for trinkets, trophies, banners, paintings. For example, once you defeat an elite captain or sea monster a certain amount of times, you would get a small version of their vessel, a miniature vessel, or a miniature version of that sea monster to display as a trophy. And you would also have other trophies like banners of factions based on how many times you sank a certain faction, like the French, the DMC, etc. Once you sank 100 DMC ships, you would get a DMC torn banner to hang on your wall in your hideouts, as well as settlements, forts plundered, convoys sunk, along with a certain number of sharks, crocodiles, hippos killed, and max rewards as well. So once you've fully maxed one of your ships, you've fully upgraded it, you would get a miniature version of a sloop or brigantine or the battle junk, depending on which one you've maxed out to display. Maxed tool rewards, so you'd have like a wall where you could hang like the maxed version of your tools. Seasonal rewards and trophies, trinkets, as well as special events, trophies, and trinkets. Now, it might sound like your hideout is nothing more than a trophy room or a flex, which is half true, but I also have some things that we could add to the hideout, which would add functionality to it. But speaking of flex, I would like our own vault area within the hideout that would grow depending on how much silver, pieces of 8, and sovereigns we happen to have in our possession. Just piles of silver coins, pieces of 8, sovereigns, treasure chests, gems. But the hideout would also have our very own wardrobe area, along with helm operations, some shops we could hire people for, like our own commodities trader, our own personal blacksmith, refinery, etc. A bar, maybe, where the crewmates will be singing shanties or playing music. Maybe some mini games, that would be awesome. And at the bar, we'd have the ability to also purchase adult beverages to drink and, well, get a little tipsy. Kingpin hideouts would be an amazing quality of life improvement and feature in Skull and Bones. One of the things we've been wanting since the game was first announced back in 2017 was to be more than just a ship. And I mean, in a way, we get to actually go on some land, some of the outposts, as well as the 2 dens currently in Skull and Bones, and collect loot, cook food, find treasure maps. But most of us wanted to do more than simply that. We wanted to be able to go on land and actually get into fights with swords and muskets, as well as pistols, against both NPC enemies as well as player enemies. But unfortunately, at this point, we don't have that in Skull and Bones. I don't know if we ever will. And to be honest, if they did add that in a future update or season to Skull and Bones, they probably wouldn't use these current locations for those particular areas. However, if we look at the map, there's plenty of additional real estate and land that they could set up additional land zones or areas for players to make landfall and explore. That would also serve as PvE and PvE PvP areas against NPCs and player enemies. So as you can tell, yeah, there's plenty of land already here to accomplish that feat. It's just they would have to design the areas for us to roam around in, explore. Now, I don't expect the combat to be too complex if we're able to actually have various unique areas on land to explore, to face PvP enemies or perhaps even other players in PvP combat. Just keep it simple. The ability to switch between a sword, a pistol, a musket. And for the sword, 2 options. You have the ability to slash and block when you're fighting your foes. Rumor has it Ubisoft Singapore is also working on the remake to Black Flag. I hope that they're doing a great job with the remake, but while they're at it, I wouldn't mind if they imported some of the mechanics that we loved about Black Flag into Skull and Bones as additional quality of life improvements, which includes the swashbuckling hand-to-hand gun combat. Now, for the record, our pirate is not an assassin, so I don't expect us to do all the amazing assassin stuff that Edward Kenway's able to do. Like I said, just keep it simple. Allow us to fight NPCs in some areas and players in PvP zones with muskets, pistols, and yes, our swords. Players will be able to eat food similar to whenever you take a repair kit to your ship to repair it. But there would be a cooldown period for healing yourself whenever you're in combat against NPCs and other players. If you get killed, you simply respawn back on your ship. NPCs slain in combat would drop ammo, silver, sometimes pieces of 8, as well as unique weapon skins and clothing cosmetics. There would be additional weapon skins players would be able to purchase for their muskets, pistols, swords. That would cost silver, pieces of 8, sovereigns, and of course some that you could only buy with gold from the official store. I also think that we need land missions in the game if Skull and Bones was to ever have the ability for us to actually go and be a pirate and swashbuckle NPCs and other players. So I came up with a few options for land missions. Bounties. You have the ability to select a bounty, but instead of going after and destroying a ship, you go into one of the land areas. You fight some guards, some enemy NPCs, and then you kill the target that you're sent after, like a captain, a lieutenant of the guards. Kill them. You fast travel or sail back to one of the locations in order to claim the bounty. Rescue missions. I think this is a cool idea where you go to one of the areas, you kill the NPCs holding a hostage, you rescue the hostage, take them back to your ship. And then with the hostage, you have to actually sail to the location while at the same time being pursued by enemy ships. Once you safely deliver the hostage, then you are rewarded upon delivery of the hostage during the rescue mission. Raids would be cool, where you could just simply raid NPC camps, kill them, gain whatever loot and treasure they were guarding or protecting, as well as perhaps even ancient treasure maps. Now we have recent treasure maps, old treasure maps, But in these particular areas, perhaps we can get treasure maps that are even more valuable than the old treasure maps, but they're a bit more challenging because, once again, you also have to work your way through enemy NPCs and perhaps even other players in order to get to the location where these ancient treasure chests happen to be. Basically, high risk, high reward when it comes to ancient treasure maps. For the life of me, I don't know why they never considered adding land-based pirate v pirate PvE PvP combat to this game, especially since that was the feedback they've been getting since 2017, that we also wanted to be able to go on land and have swashbuckling adventures and fights against other players and enemy PCs. In my opinion, that is a major piece that is still missing from Skull and Bones. And it's one of the things that we enjoyed about Assassin's Creed Black Flag. Something else a lot of us are curious about is this region of the map that is currently unexplorable, the expansion that maybe one day we'll actually get to sell around in Skull and Bones. I hope this region is amazing and has some outposts and has probably at least one den for us. Maybe, like I mentioned already, maybe some spots where we can purchase a hideout. But yeah, I hope that we eventually get a map expansion to Skull and Bones as well, somewhere down the road. Now, my final suggestion is something I brought up a couple months ago, is regarding making Skull and Bones free to play eventually, perhaps post season 4. That would encourage more players to pick up Skull and Bones and give it a chance, even though there have been trials. If not free to play, then I think it would be a very good idea for Ubisoft to work with Sony to get Skull and Bones up there as a free game for a month for PlayStation Plus. That way, more players on PlayStation would consider hopping into Skull and Bones because it would be free to acquire. If Ubisoft is going to continue to hold out to make this game free to play, at the very least, just go ahead and discount all versions of the game in order to make it a little bit more appealing to players that are on the fence about wanting to buy it, but they're not willing to drop $70 for the game. Even if Skull and Bones ends up being free to play or heavily discounted, there's clearly other ways that they're making money off Skull and Bones with the store. So just keep adding various cosmetics for the ships, for the players and their pirates. And like I mentioned, they could add cosmetics for swords, pistols, muskets, if they ever add that feature to the game, and the Smuggler's Pass as well. In conclusion, I know that there's a very real possibility that Skull and Bones might not survive past Season 4. I hope I'm wrong about that because I'd like to see future seasons, smuggler passes, as well as much needed improvements to Skull and Bones, like some of the things that I suggested in this video. Now I want to know what you think Skull and Bones needs in order to survive, thrive, and bring more pirates to the game. Your thoughts, views, and opinions, as always, welcome below in the comments section.